Well, it's your friend Dom C, and it's been a minute. It's been a while since I've put out a video and recorded something for the channel. So, with the combine right around the corner, what better time than now? Coming up for you, a 2-round mock draft right after this. And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, again, this is Dom C, and this is another episode of The Draft Dodgers. Riding solo tonight. Had some free time, so, I was thinking that I haven't been really very active on my own channel as I got a bunch of different balls in the air juggling around, this and that. So I had some free time, so I figured why not put out some content? Why not give you guys what you're asking me for? And that's more draft content, more mock drafts, more positional breakdowns, so on and so forth. So, combine's right around the corner. We're in the heat of the 2025 draft season. So, I figured I'd roll out a mock. This one's going to be a little bit different. This one's going to be a 2-rounder. This one is going to have some trades as well. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to be quick and not as verbose. I tend to have verbal diarrhea, as my good friend Green Bean always tells me. But I'm going to be short and sweet and concise and to the point. But wanted to get a 2-rounder out for a while now. Wanted to do some trades. So we're going to definitely have some trades that go on through the draft. Should just tweak it up. Again, just an exercise. Mock drafts are nothing but make-believe, people. So, you can get at me in the comments all you want. They'll never draft this team. This guy will never go here, blah, blah, blah. Listen, it's just a way to play out some different scenarios and see what things could look like. So you could like it, you could not, and that's okay. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. What do you say? If you haven't done so, the YouTube channel Project Prospect with Dom C sure could use your subscription. So once you go ahead, do me a favor. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, like the video, get some friendly discourse going on in the comments section. All that stuff really helps the YouTube algorithm and kicks my stuff out to you guys. And so more of the masses get to see it, so on and so forth. So I'd appreciate that if you did. Tell me what you like in the comment section. Tell me how good or how bad I did, so on and so forth. It's okay. I got tough skin. I can take it. So 2-rounder, combine's right around the corner. Let's get at it. So before we start the draft, I did preemptively do a couple trades here. So and you guys will see on your screen right here. The first trade is one that, might be 50-50 whether it happens or not. And that's Cleveland moving on from Myles Garrett. They are a hot mess down there in Cleveland. A lot going on. We know what's going on with the quarterback play or lack thereof. Myles Garrett has had enough. It's a big nut for them to swallow if they do trade him, but this might be the best opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead. There's a ton of teams that could, really make sense. The one for me, which pains me to do, is I'm going to have Myles Garrett traded to Buffalo. In return, Buffalo's going to send to Cleveland AJ Epinesa, their 2025 first-round pick, which is number 30 overall, and a 2026 second-round pick. Now, that pick can be conditional. Again, for the context of this video, it really doesn't make sense. So maybe it's conditional, turns into a first if Myles Garrett has double-digit sacks and Buffalo makes the playoffs. I don't know. However you want to, formulate it in your own head, go ahead and do that. But that trade has already been completed. And I had another one as well, as you'll see right here. And this one, I think, is really gaining legs in terms of the player wanting to move. The player looks like the team is ready to move on from him, and that's Cooper Kupp. And I'm going to, there's a bunch of teams that could make sense for Cooper Kupp as well. Cooper Kupp carries a big contract for this year and next year. At 33 years old, hasn't been healthy. So it's not an easy landing spot. So I'm trying to think of the teams that, really make sense for Cooper Cup. Um, and again, that contract plays into it. So similar to what happened a few years back with Brock Osweiler and that horrible contract, the Rams are going to have to almost pay to have Cooper Cup's uh, contract absorbed and move on from him. I mean, I guess I could have done something for a day 3 pick, which is probably pretty realistic, but that wouldn't help this video at all. So I'm going to have Cooper Cup traded along with the Rams' 3rd round pick, which is number 90, and a 3rd round pick next year to Houston. So he can pair up with an old familiar friend who's moving over from the Rams to take over as the offensive coordinator in Houston. Houston's going to be giving up their 2nd round pick, number 57. Maybe a little rich. The value works. And again, I wanted to put something in play that, the Rams would have to, pretty much buy or, pay a little bit of a tax to have someone take on that big Cooper Cup contract. So that's what we're doing. Those 2 trades have already been put through the simulator, and let me go ahead and pull up the mock draft simulator. I prefer to use, I prefer to use PFF. It just works well for me. I'm going to have some other trades going on right here as we get on, and I think I'm going to start. Right here with the Tennessee Titans and pick number 1. And to me, this one makes a lot of sense. Tennessee's going to move off of number 1. They're going to go ahead and trade it to the Giants. They're going to get 2 seconds and number 3 overall for number 1. I'm going to force that trade, and then I'm going to start the draft. And guess what? The Giants are on the board. And I'm not going to hesitate too much. We know why the Giants are moving up to 1. We know that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are really hanging by a thread here to their jobs. And one thing I think that they can do to ensure job security is go ahead and try to hitch their wagon to a quarterback. And they're going to do that with Cam Ward, arguably the best quarterback in the draft. People are going to say Shedeur Sanders. I've seen a lot of Will Howard love as number 1 quarterback in this class, but I think Cam Ward has probably the best upside. I think he has the ability to elevate some of the players on the team, and for a team void of a lot of playmakers outside of Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy, they're going to need to be elevated. So Cam Ward's going to be the pick. Number 2 is going to be easy. Cleveland has moved off of Myles Garrett. They're going to go ahead and take what I feel is the best player in this draft in Abdul Carter. And it doesn't matter where you play him. You can stand him up a la Micah Parsons, play that Joker role where he's all over the place. You can put his hand in the dirt. The bend, the twitch, the athleticism, the developing pass rush bag. Again, remember, he's only been doing this at the edge for 1 year. But you can't really question how good and how quick and how athletic he is. I mean, the arrow is pointing straight up. I expect Abdul Carter to be a force in this league for many, many years to come. Cleveland's happy to have him here. And Tennessee's on the clock here. Different ways to play around with this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of move off the beaten path. I'm not going to take a quarterback here, although a quarterback's still in play. They got some extra draft capital. Again, a 2nd this year, 2nd next year. They have their own 2nd as well. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Travis Hunter. Tennessee has tons of holes. I think that Brian Callahan is pretty safe and secure in his job. I think they're going to be given the opportunity to build this thing the right way. And you need some pieces all over the place. You need some weapons. You need some help along the outside of the back of the defense where I think Travis Hunter is going to fit in swimmingly. You took a big swing on Ladarius Sneed last year, and that didn't work out very well. Now you bring in Travis Hunter, phenomenal ball skills, the click and close abilities is really good. And he can, give you 10 to 15 plays on the offense as well, if that's what you choose to do for him. So Tennessee is going to move to Travis Hunter. And that brings me on the clock here with the Patriots. This is a real interesting one. Because, the Patriots have a ton of money to spend in free agency. They've obviously got their franchise quarterback already in play. They got, a real franchise type player on the defense, on the back end of the defense, in Christian Gonzalez. But they are really, thin throughout the rest of the roster, all over the place. I would love to pluck an offensive lineman for the Patriots. I just don't think that there's one worthy here. I don't think there's one worthy of the selection here. And considering that they pick high again in the second round, this is an opportunity that I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take best player available. And for me, whether or not it's, my best player available, you look at the defense. When they got holes up front, they need edge rushers. They need linebacker play. All too rich. You look, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pluck Mason Graham. I think Mason Graham's a good player. Arguably the best player left on the board, and some people have him that way. Not necessarily for me, but what you're getting from Mason Graham is somebody who can really press the pocket from the inside. You're getting a really high floor player. I don't know if he's ever going to reach the levels of, the Chris Joneses of the world and the Quentin Williams of the world, and really, be one of those elite type $25-30 million interior defensive linemen. But I think what you're getting is a really good player. He's going to help to an extent against the run. They have a need for that, 3-tech, piercing type, pressing type defensive tackle that can get at the passer. Very quick, very quick hands, very quick first step, constant motor. So Mason Graham can really fit into most defenses. And I'm going to have him come off the board here with the New England Patriots. Leads me up to Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not going to hesitate here again. It's going to be Will Johnson. Arguably Will Johnson was one of the two best defensive players in college football last year. This year he battled some turf toe. He struggled early on because of it, and then he kind of packed it in once the Michigan season was out. But you talk about a guy that, fits in on a team that is in need of a second corner, is in need of a second boundary corner opposite Tyson Campbell. Really solidifies him. Again, phenomenal ball skills. I think he's got really good zone eyes. I think he matches movements very well on receivers, so he can stick with them. Is he the best tackler in the world? No, but there's not many cornerbacks that that are elite in the tackle realm of the world. But I think what you're getting is a really solid player that will eventually be a cornerback one on the team and really address a big need here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Things fell right for the Raiders here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Shedeur Sanders off the board. Everyone knows about the fit. Everyone knows about the quarterback situation with Las Vegas. Pete Carroll, new head coach, is going to, my guess, probably hand the reins over to one of these veterans before they, while they get Shedeur ready. Listen, I love Shedeur Sanders. I do. I know he doesn't have the arm strength of Cam Ward. He doesn't have the escapability and off-platform play as say Jackson Dart. He doesn't have the athleticism of Jalen Milroe. But what he does is offer real heady QB play from the pocket. Maybe the best and the best precise, accurate quarterback in the class. Throws with anticipation, throws a catchable ball, understands pre-snap reads, understands how to get through his progressions with the post-snap adjustments that the defense might show him. Again, high floor guy. Don't know what the ceiling is on Shedeur Sanders, but I think that the Raiders are going to find out. Leads me up with the Jets here. A bunch of different ways here. If the board fell this way, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Ted McMillan. They got holes on that they got holes on the offense and the defense. Let's keep it 100. But assuming with the Jets moving on from Rodgers, assuming that Devontae Adams will be the next domino to fall, the Jets get a $30 million get $30 million in cap relief for moving on from Devontae Adams, who has already intimated that he wants to play back in the West, his hometown area. So I think an amicable part is on the way, and you're going to need to replace, his targets. And whether or not Ted McMillan replaces all of his targets, what he does do is give you a very good complementary wide receiver piece to what you have in Garrett Wilson. You can put him in on the boundary as that prototypical X. You can even play him as the big slot in certain formations. Huge catch radius, really big hands, good receiving the ball, phenomenal yak skills for a guy that is 6'5", 220 pounds. That he's going to be a red zone threat. That he's going to be able to go up and really fight for those contested catches. For me, I think this is a really good scenario for the Jets if the board fell this way to land a weapon for whomever the quarterback's going to be next year for the New York Jets. And that leads me to the Panthers here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take one of my favorite players in this class. It's a guy that I've really warmed up to over the past couple weeks as I've delved deeper and tried to rate my edge rushers. So obviously we're going to go the edge. I'm going to take James Pierce Jr. I'm pretty dead set and ready to plant my flag that James Pierce is a top 10 player in this class. I know people are going to argue about the size, and I know people are going to argue about the fit. But what you can't argue about is the production, right? So almost a 32% pass rush win rate last year. The movement skills are elite. The pass rush bag and the counters are all good. I mean, he can he can beat you with speed and bend around the corner. That he's got that signature rip that he gets in there with. I've seen him do a lot of work on stunts coming from the outside in, looping around from the inside out. You can stand him up. There's certain situations and certain sets you can throw his hand in the dirt and put him wide 9 and let him really beat one of those unathletic tackles. I think James Pierce at 240 some odd pounds, I think, does a really good job against the run. Is he the best edge setter, from the defensive end position in the class? No. But Carolina, they need some juice on that defense. Since they got rid of Brian Burns, it seems that, there's just been no gasoline kicking on that side of the ball, getting at the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback. And listen, if you told me 3 years from now that James Pierce, developed into a Brian Burns type, I think Carolina would be really, really happy. So he's going to be my pick there for the Carolina Panthers. Leaves me up here with the Saints. The Saints are an interesting selection, man. They, look like right now they're going to keep Derek Carr. I know people are intimating that he might be gone. I just don't see how they can, considering the cap situation, considering there's not a lot of cap flexibility if they do move on from him. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work under the premise that he's back. And Kellen Moore, new head coach, is going to probably try to put as many weapons as he can around him. I think Chris Olave needs a running partner. I don't know if there's somebody here that I'm willing or comfortable taking this high to complement Chris Olave. But what I will do and what I can do is take Tyler Warren, because he is the true Joker type of an offense. It doesn't matter if you put him in as an inline tight end. Doesn't matter if you flex him out to play big slot. You can line him up one-on-one on the boundary. He can line up as an H-back. He can line up as a fullback. Hell, he can line up in the Wildcat because he's done it all at Penn State. Produced to to the tune of like 1,300, 1,400 total scrimmage yards and 12 touchdowns last year. Again, took over 30%. You got 30% of the ball thrown his way. Just an absolute monster in Penn State this year in not only target share but in production. So, and they need tight ends and they need weapons. And what better way to kind of pass the torch to Kellen Moore than to give him maybe the most versatile offensive chess piece in the draft this year in Tyler Warren. So Chicago's on the board. Chicago, I think, can go a couple different ways. They have some picks here at the top of round 39 and 41. I believe they own Carolinas as well. So, I think offensive line makes sense. Again, this is still an area where I'm not very, very comfortable personally taking offensive lineman. I think you can wait a little bit. I think this 39 to 41 spot, you'll be able to get a guy of maybe a tier down from the guy that you're picking here, but the value is a little bit better on the offensive line. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to address the trenches, but on the other side. And give me Walter Nolan. Another real dominant 3-tech, something that Chicago has tried to, put into effects with Guron Dexter, with Zach Pickens the past couple years. I think Walter Nolan is, probably better than both of those guys right now. The violence that he plays with, with both with his hands, with his speed, he can get at the quarterback. He's solid against the run. Again, I think Walter Nolan's the top 10 player in this class, and Chicago's going to have a lot of fun and interesting things on offense. So I think they're going to be able to create no matter what. Yes, they need to protect Caleb Williams a little bit more, but I'm going to address the other side of the ball and take a player who I think is deserved to take. Chicago has, like I said, 2 other high picks. You're going to be able to get some playmakers if you want, or get some offensive linemen if you want early in round 2, which we will get into. Leads me in San Francisco here. Oh, man. San Francisco, again, can go a bunch of different ways. I really like cornerback for San Francisco. I don't know if we're going to see it here, again, just because of the value. You got some linebacker needs. Again, I don't know if this is too early for a linebacker. To me, you're looking at a couple things here, right? You're looking at offensive linemen because you're going to need an eventual replacement for Trent Williams. Maybe a immediate replacement for Colton McKivitz on the right side. Maybe somebody that can have a little bit of guard tackle flexibility, if you will. So I can lean that way here. I could also lean 3-tech. They did move on from Javon Hargrave, or announced that they plan to move on from Javon Hargrave. Knowing Robert Saleh and that defense and what he asks for and demands from that defense is really to get home with those front 4, right? So I'm thinking maybe this is a spot to look that way. I don't know. I'm really considering Shamar Stewart here, to have him play that inside outside role that is very, very prevalent in a Robert Saleh defense. But I think I'm going to wait on that. I think I'm going to go ahead and take that offensive lineman that has that guard tackle flexibility, and that's going to be Armand Membo from Missouri. I think he can, at worst, he comes in and he can start at guard before he moves to tackle. Or again, he can push Colton McKivitz for that, that right tackle spot right off the get-go. The way he moves in space is excellent. I think he's going to be a fit for what San Francisco wants to do with their wide zone offensive or wide zone blocking principles. And like I said, he's, for a guy who moves as well as he does, He plays nasty. He's really, really physical at the point of attack. I think he anchors really well as well. I think he's an instant right tackle. But again, if San Francisco wanted to start him at guard and then, before they moved him out the tackle, I'd have no problem with that either. So Armand Membo is going to be the pick here. And it leaves me with Dallas here at number 12. I think everyone's kind of in lockstep. This is the Ashton Genty spot. I don't know. I'm going to pass on that right now. You look at Dallas, they got needs again all over the place. They have holes on the offensive line that need to be filled, right? They have defensive needs that really need to be addressed. And one is that where is Demarius Overshown going to come back from that devastating injury he suffered at the end of the year? The defense is the way I'm thinking I'm leaning here. And I'm going to take one of my favorite guys here. For me, this is the area where he needs to come off the board. That's Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. You talk about sideline to sideline speed. He's got it. He's a former edge rusher. You can use him as a blitzer coming off. Again, you don't know what's happening with Micah Parsons. I'm assuming Micah Parsons is going to be part of this team, right? I absolutely assuming he's going to be part of this team. How could he not? But you get a guy in here to replace Eric Hendricks in the middle that can help in the run fits in that phone booth in that between the tackles and still have the speed to cover sideline to sideline. You play him 3 downs because he can flip his hips and he can run with tight ends. He can cover a linebacker or running backs out of the backfield. I think Jihad Campbell is a phenomenal player. Some are going to say it's too early for an off-ball linebacker, but in this case, I don't think it is. That's how good I think the player is. So that's going to be my pick here. Jihad Campbell to the Dallas Cowboys leaves me up with the Dolphins. Everyone wants to automatically everyone's looking to automatically plug offensive linemen to Dolphins. I'm not going to do that. The Dolphins are another team that have a bevy of holes, if you will. They started making some cuts. You don't know what's happening with Tyreek Hill. I think he's going to be back. They definitely need some guards, some interior guys. But again, I think they have some picks. Yeah, they got top 50 picks where I think will be a safer, more comfortable spot to take some of those interior guys. Again, I'm going to lean towards the defense for them. Calais Campbell's a free agent. Benito Jones is a free agent. Anthony Walker's a free agent. Jordan Poyer and Javon Holland are free agents. They just got rid. I think they just cut somebody in the defensive backfield. For the life of me, I can't remember. They need off-ball linebackers. Their defense is in pretty big shambles right now. What are you getting out of Cam Smith? I don't know. Cornerback could make sense here. Safety could make sense. So why not take the guy that can really do both, right? Jihad Barron out of Texas. He's done a little bit of everything. He's played some post safety early in his career. He played some nickel later in his career. And last year they played him on the boundary. And Jihad Campbell just stepped up to the plate and kept getting better year after year after year. I like that he has that versatility. It's something that the Dolphins could use and will need in their trying to figure out how to fill holes with limited money. He's probably the best, the surest tackler out of all the defensive backs. So he's going to help there. And again, in situations where you want to play him on the outside, he can hang. In certain situations, especially in his own heavy scheme, in certain situations, if you want to play him as a safety, as a post safety, he can do that too. You want to press him up, you want to have him cover the slot, he can do that as well. So for me, I think it's a really good fit. Jihad Barron coming off the board, and that leaves me with the Indianapolis Colts here at 14. And everyone has loved to select Tyler Warren for the Colts. I think I'm going to move in a different way again. And this is where I'm going to have the first lineman come off the board. Call me lazy, call it boring. Give me Will Campbell. I think he slides in at right guard. I think, whatever. Quentin Nelson is not long term. Braden Smith might be a cap casualty. So Will Campbell gives you the best of both worlds. He can plug. I think he's a plug and play, really high end guard right from the get go. And if you need him to kick outside, if you move on from Braden Smith, he can probably handle that as well. Again, I think his power profile is excellent. I watched him displace defenders on those down blocks. I think he's going to be better with inside with in pass protection from the inside, so he doesn't have to get caught with speed, which he has a tendency to do. He's a tendency to catch a little bit more than strike. So he's got some work to do with those hands. I think the inside is going to be kind of his landing spot in the NFL. So he's coming off the board here, and now the Falcons are on the board, and the Falcons need edge rushers. There's no denying that. Falcons need edge rushers, but the Falcons also need picks because they don't have many of them, right? In this draft, it probably won't matter, but they are in desperate need. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have a trade here. I'm going to have Denver come up from 20. And again, for the sake of the video, the trade value, really doesn't come too far into play. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give them a third this year and a fourth next year from Denver to come up to 15. I'm going to go ahead and force that. Let me force that. Boom. And Denver's going to come up. Denver's going to go ahead and take a weapon here. They want to get ahead of all the teams that might be looking at their man, Colson Loveland. Colson Loveland is going to be a wonderful fit in Sean Payton's offense. Exactly what Bo Nix needs. He's a guy who at 6'5", 250 pounds, is an excellent route runner. Again, another guy, huge catch radius. He can push, he can push vertically up the seams. He can run routes as good as some wide receivers can. Questionable hands early in his career. Young kid, just turned 21. I think he, has improved that a lot. He's going to be an instant red zone threat. In the short and intermediate routes. I mean, he understands how to find those soft spots in the zone. Colson Loveland, for me, just seems like a Sean Payton kind of guy. So they're going to trade up and they're going to take him and they're going to leave the big dog here for the Cardinals. And when I say the big dog, they're going to fill a need here with an interior guy. Another one of my favorite film studies, that's Kenneth Grant at 340 pounds. That traditional, you assume that traditional run stuffing nose tackle, but man, he can do a lot more than just that. Like, there's some glimpses of Dexter Lawrence in his game, the way he moves for a big guy, with suddenness and with power in those hands. He can get at the quarterback. So it's not a guy that is going to be locked into an early down role. I think he can probably play a little bit more than that. And I think that the Cardinals would be elated to see him on the board here. And you have the Michigan guys come off the board back to back. Leaves me up with the Bengals. What happens with T. Higgins, right? Who knows? I'm not going to play into free agency. Obviously, a lot of what happens here with this pick will really come down to what happens in free agency. But they need, they need some help as well. You're going to probably need to replace T. Higgins. They need some offensive line help as well. The guys that are either unrestricted in guys like Cody Ford, Trent Brown is unrestricted. So, another one of those guard, tackle, flexible guys might make sense here. You still need, I think, would it be is this a crazy Ashton Genty landing spot? I don't know. For me, I'm going to pass on it now. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Kelvin Banks because I think that Kelvin Banks comes in and secures that guard spot, that left guard spot right off the get-go. And then you can make the decision whether it's in this year or years to come if you want to bounce him outside to replace Orlando Brown whenever his contract is up. But I think Kelvin Banks' movement skills are really good. He's got to tone down the penalties. I think the best way to kind of introduce him to the NFL is probably starting him in the inside before you move him on the outside. So I see a lot of people with Kelvin Banks as their number one tackle. He is not mine. But I think this class is really wonky. I think it's really weird. I think for the majority, most of them would be best suited starting inside and bouncing outside. But that's for another video. That's for another argument. Kelvin Banks is going to go to the Bengals here to play guard for them and protect the Golden Boy Joe Burrow. Leaves me up with Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to get a little funny here. I think this is where we see the one, the only Jackson Dart come off the board. Yes, I said it. Jackson Dart. There's 1 year left on Geno Smith at 35 years old. And this seems like an area, this spot from 18 till the end of the round is really where I think that you're going to see a team take one of these quarterbacks, the third quarterback off the board, whether it's Will Howard, whether it's Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, it doesn't matter. This is where I think you're going to see some of these guys come off the board because the team that's picking them already has a quarterback in place. So you don't have to worry about starting them right away. But you get that value. You get the 5th round pick. Listen, Jackson Dart has has an NFL arm. Jackson Dart has NFL moxie. He has NFL athleticism. He's not, I wouldn't say he's dual threat guy, but he's very, very sneaky athletic. You could turn, he can, he can maneuver around the pocket, keep his play with that, athletic contact balance that he has, bounce outside and scramble for yards, a la Patrick Mahomes and a la Daniel Jones, like that sneaky kind of athleticism. Not Lamar Jackson, dual threat quarterback, but a guy that can hurt you with his legs. I think Jackson Dart has to really, really recreate his mechanics. I think his footwork is completely wonky. He's fallen back and thrown off his back foot a lot, which is a testament to his arm strength because he still gets the ball out there, man. But yeah, this is kind of a soft spot where I think quarterback 3 is going to land, and Jackson Dart in Seattle. Now you pair him up with another Ole Miss. Is that no? That's Sam Howell was UNC. He wasn't Ole Miss. I was thinking Matt Corral. But yeah, you put him on. You put him on there, and you kind of sit and learn behind Geno Smith. And who knows? Maybe Seattle feels comfortable in Sam Howell and Jackson Dart enough to move on from Geno Smith later in the spring or before the draft. But for this video, he's not. Jackson Dart's going to be my pick. I think he's going to go in the first round. I'm just trying to pick and play on where he could go. And this, to me, is a pretty good landing spot. And that brings me up with the Buccaneers. Yeah, Mike Evans is going to have to retire soon at some point, right? I don't know how much time he's got left. Do they re-sign Chris Godwin? They got some needs on the interior of the offensive line as well. But I don't think there's a bigger need on this team than edge rusher. So that's where I'm going to go. Now, the type of edge rusher is the question, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Mike Green off the board. I think Mike Green can do a lot of things. He can put his hand in the dirt and get at you. I think he's got the athletic chops if you need him to stand up and play that, that 3-4 outside linebacker and rush and cover in the little spot zones as well. He's a complete player. He's a really, really good run defender, an underrated run defender. And I love that he came into the Senior Bowl a little bit bulked up, and it really didn't take away from his quickness or his agility. We watched him win time after time. One of the bigger winners at the Senior Bowl was Mike Green, and I think this is a great landing spot for Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers. Leads me up with the Falcons again. Edge rusher still in play here, but you know what? Could they trade down again? How crazy is it? Yes, I think they could. And I'm going to have the Falcons trade down again. Let me pop the old trade thing in here. This one's not going to be that big. It's just going to be with the Chargers. We're going to call it let's see, 20 and 22. That's about 780, 850. That's about 70 points on the board. So I'm going to go ahead and where am I? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let the Chargers kick over a 4th round pick and say a 6th round pick to the Falcons to move up. Why? Why are they moving up just 2 spots? Well, they want to get ahead of Pittsburgh. You never know what Pittsburgh's going to do. So the Chargers are on the board, and the Ashton Genty plummet ends right there. Man, could you imagine Ashton Genty, Justin Herbert, and Jim Harbaugh together? Well, guess what? In this video, in this make-believe scenario, we made it happen. We talked about contact balance, maybe the best I've ever seen out of a college running back. He can, he's got a second gear. He can run over you. He can run around you. He can juke you. He can beat you with his hands out of the backfield. He's very willing in pass pro, does a good job there. He's a guy that doesn't have to leave the field in a team where Harbaugh and Roman really want to establish and dominate the run. And heck, they just got some really good offensive linemen too that Genty can run behind. They're the 4th round and the 6th round pick is more than enough to get ahead of Pittsburgh, just in case Pittsburgh was feeling any kind of certain funny way. But they're not, and they're on the board, and I'm going to have Luther Burden come off. They need a compliment to George Pickens. If George Pickens is on the roster, inside-outside versatility, I think you put you put him and Roman Wilson on the field together, both with those really elite short area quickness. Both of those guys who really can crush a slot fade. They're interchangeable. I love Luther Burden. I really do. And I really like this fit. So we'll find out who's playing quarterback for them at another time. But here we are, Falcons, after trading down twice and recouping some of that missing draft capital. Now they go get their edge rusher, right? And this is where I'm going to have Shamar Stewart come off the board. A guy who's 285 pounds shouldn't move as well as he does. There are things in his game that really project very well. The question is, like those traitsy type of projections, like they don't always pan out. Texas A&M as a whole, their guys, when you're looking straight at reading stats, the production just wasn't there. You're hoping that a young Shamar Stewart, where he's going to get the chance to really kick back and really learn and really be a dominant force, a one-way dominant force on the edge. Go at the quarterback. You hope that he'll be able to reach those projections and let those traits really shine. But man, God, at 6'6" or 6'5", 280 pounds, guys shouldn't move as well as they do, like Shamar Stewart does. So I'm going to lock him in there. Leaves me up at Green Bay. I love this pick to Green Bay. I've done it 1,000 times. If you don't like it, that's fine. You can get at me. Azariah Thomas, the cornerback from Florida State, I think he, fits the bill in those long, the length, the height that Green Bay wants for their cornerbacks. I think he's one of the better man coverage corners in this draft class. Even though Hafley has mixed it up and played a lot more zone than they have in previous years, you need somebody. You need somebody on the field that can, that can really help that defensive backfield. They were young last year. Lots of young safeties. Xavier McKinney had an all-world, all-pro season, but you just don't know what's going to happen with Jair Alexander. Could he be gone, right? Eric Stokes never really panned out. I mean, Keyshawn Nixon, nice player, probably more of a depth piece. I think you bring in a guy like Azariah Thomas. At worst, he's playing opposite Jair Alexander, and you gave yourself two lockdown corners on each side. And if you decide to move on from Jair, there's your replacement. So for me, that's an easy fix. That's an easy hit, I should say. And it leaves me up here with the Minnesota Vikings. You know, I've been locked in with Minnesota. And I'm going to continue this thought process here with them. I like the idea of running back. I do. I know that they just worked something out. I heard today that they're, trying to work out an extension with Aaron Jones. So both teams have agreed to extend the timeline before his guarantee hits. Hopefully they can work out a long-term extension. That was a really good fit between those two teams. Again, this is the team that you're going to be handing the reins over to JJ McCarthy. I'm assuming. I don't expect Sam Darnold to come back. They have some questions outside of, some of the mainstays. They had a lot of one-year contracts. They need some help on the defense. They could use a cornerback. They could use a safety. They could use some more depth along the defensive line as well. Maybe, just maybe, this is where, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Not sure what their plan for Jerry Tillery is. I know he's unrestricted. But I'm going to have Derek Harmon come off the board here. I like Derek Harmon. And listen, I think Derek Harmon can also, play that, that 5 tech if you need him to. I think he's stout enough. I really like him as, that 3 tech as well. That guy that can get at the passer, nonstop motor, real good lateral movements, short tackler. I want to see Derek Harmon come off the board round 1. I think he's worthy of it. To me, this is a great landing spot. I think this or Houston, who picks next, would both be great landing spots. But I'm not going to hesitate anymore. They need some help on the defensive line, and they need some help in the defensive backfield as well. But I think that can come later on in the draft where the value might be a little bit better. And Houston's on the board. This is Houston's only pick here, right? At least for this video. They gave up their second to go get Cooper Kupp, and that takes away one need. What it doesn't do is really help the interior or the outside, just that offensive line. They need to protect CJ Stroud here, and this is where I'm gonna have Josh Simmons come off the board. I think Josh Simmons is a tackle, and I think, if he didn't hurt his knee 5 games into the season, we'd be talking about him as a surefire top 10 pick. And I know that he's still a lot of people's tackle 1 in this class. But coming off a patella tendon injury, it's not an ACL. It's not a quick fix. You just hope that he gets back to where he is. And listen, you have Laramie Tunsil on one side. You can plug Josh Simmons in on the right side in place of Blake Fisher and let Blake Fisher be your swing. Or you can move Josh Simmons to start if you feel more comfortable. You can move him inside and let him play guard, where I think he'll do very well because he's an absolute dominant run blocker. I just think that you give yourself the opportunity to put the best 5 available. I think Josh Simmons is a good fit here because of that inside-outside versatility. I liken him to start on the right side where he did at San Diego State before he transferred to Ohio State. And you lock in your bookends with him and Tunsil for the next who knows how many years. The Rams are on the clock. Another team in need of a tackle. They need a cornerback pretty bad too, though. This is another good spot. Yeah, now, you know what? They need to replace. Yeah, they got rid of Cooper Kupp. This is where I'm going to have Emeka Egbuka come off. And there's your Cooper Kupp replacement, right? You talk about a slot guy. You talk about guys who are precise, who understand offense, who understand how to found the soft zone, good, reliable, outlets for their quarterback. you trade Cooper Kupp, you get a Mekabuka, and you worry about that offensive line, shoring up that offensive line and defensive backfield in the latter rounds. To me, great fit. I never thought about it now because this is the first time I traded Cooper Kupp in a mock draft. So Baltimore is up. Would it be crazy here for Baltimore to take yet another safety with Malachi Starks somehow slipping through and still on the board? I don't know if I can do that, right? They already spent first round capital in the safety room last year in Kyle Hamilton. They paid big money to Marcus Williams. I think he's still under contract. I could be wrong. But yeah, listen, I'm gonna do what they do best, and I'm gonna go and attack the trenches. They're gonna need to replace Ronnie Stanley. For me, this is Josh Connerly all day long. Pure left tackle. I think he can come in. He's got those movement skills that kind of match what Roger Rosengarten is on the other side. I think you have Rosengarten and Connerly, and their ability to move and their ability to really anchor down as well. Although Connerly, I think, is a little bit better than Rosengarten at this time. I think you have your bookend tackles, and this is a team that wants to continue to build in the trenches, very similar to what Philadelphia does. So that's going to be my pick, Josh Connerly, and I'm up with Detroit. Detroit needs an edge rusher. Detroit needs a defensive back. Detroit's going to probably lose some guys in free agency as well. Yeah, they do. They need a bunch of things here. Is there a Marcus Davenport replacement? I don't know. Is there a Levi Onwuzurike replacement? I don't know. Terrion Arnold and Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis is a free agent. Yeah, this is where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the defensive backfield here. I'm gonna go to the cornerback room, and I'm gonna take Ben Morrison. Hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully the hip tests out well. But just thinking about, him and Brian Branch and Terrion Arnold on the same field, matching up in man all over the place, up and down the line, outside and in the slot. The ball skills that they all have. This is a fun pick for me. And probably the first time that I've had Morrison come off the board this early. So yeah, again, I don't think they're just a couple pieces away. So I think they can choose to do a bunch of different things here in Detroit, which is always fun when you're mocking for teams like that. And leaves me up at Washington. Speaking of overachievers, Washington, probably the king of them, right? Man, they are a good team though. This is, and I'm not going to hesitate here. I'm going to continue to support my franchise quarterback in Jaden Daniels, although they need some help on the defense as well. They're more depth than anything, depth pieces that are needed on the defense. I think that they're going to need somebody to come in and play on the offense right away, and that's where I'm going to have Matt Golden come off. You line him up opposite Terry McLaurin. You got two guys who can, go up and get at the ball. I love that compliment to one another. And again, I think this is an area where you're going to see Golden come off the board. Edge rusher might be more important. Some people say tackle, but I think the value of supporting I think the value of Golden tied into supporting Jaden Daniels makes more sense. Again, they have plenty more picks to play with. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do here with Washington. And Cleveland is back up on the clock, courtesy of the trade of Myles Garrett to Buffalo. And they took Abdul Carter in round 1. Yeah, let's go nuts here, right? Let's get Omarion Hampton in the building here. Listen, if there wasn't Ashton Genty in this draft class, I think we would be talking about, a lot more people would be talking about Omarion Hampton at a whole different level. Like, this guy is a true complete running back. 3-down guy, can do it all. He's got the frame. He's done it in college for 2 consecutive years now. There's not a lot that he's going to need to come off the field. And listen, you pair, Nick Chubb's injured, gone. You have a bunch of, a bunch of other guys that are just jags on that team. You're going to need to build an identity, right? And yes, you're still going to need some offensive linemen. But again, I think for me, going in and securing that weapon in Omari and Hampton, now you've taken 2 absolute dogs in Abdul Carter and Omari and Hampton here for Cleveland. I love that. Kansas City's on the clock. Not gonna hesitate too much here with the Kansas City spot. It's gonna be no, it's not gonna be. Let me think about this here, folks. Right? They're another team that could use a receiver. They got a bunch of free agents, but that's an area that they can probably plug pretty easy because the free agent pool is gonna all want to kind of congregate around Patrick Mahomes. They're going to have to replace Trey Smith at right guard more than likely. I think that they're going to need some guys on the defense as well. This is where I'm going to have Malachi Starks come off the board. Yeah, I think that Malachi can do a little bit of everything. He's played, he's versatile. He's played in the box. He's played in the nickel. He's he can play single high if you ask him to. Just another movable chess piece for Steve Spagnuolo here. They drafted Jaden Hicks last year. Brian Cook is still on the roster, but doesn't matter what you do with him. You can play him. You can play Starks in the nickel. I think you can play him in big nickel situation. We don't have a third safety on the field. He might be better right here, right now, than Brian Cook or Jaden Hicks. So I think that Malachi Starks is that piece that good teams get to do, and that's build pipeline players. Malachi Starks, you are coming off the board. That leaves the Eagles. What do the Eagles do is the question. Everyone's going to say, pick in the trenches from Georgia. Well, guess what? There's a Georgia guy to pick from the trenches here for the Eagles. Yeah, you know what? But I'm going to avoid it. I am. I think I'm going to stay in the trenches, though. And I'm going to take an offensive lineman here. Yeah. This is where I'm going to have Cam Williams come off the board. Some people might say it's early, right? And listen, this might be a little bit early for Cam Williams. But I just think that the fit is so perfect. He needs to be coached up. What team better to coach up offensive linemen than one where the offensive line is led by Jeff Stoutland? He doesn't have to come in here and start right away. Exactly what Philadelphia likes to do. Let's see what happens with Lane Johnson. Let's build Cam Williams up. I mean, he's got the size. He's got ridiculous length. He's strong as an ox. He just needs to really just develop. He needs a year or two. So this is a perfect landing spot, although some of you might say that it's a little early. To me, this is a great landing spot for Cam Williams. And that leaves me up here back on the clock to start round 2 for the Cleveland Browns, who have already taken Abdul Carter and Omarion Hampton. Yeah, I guess this is the time where we're going to see some of those value plays on the offensive line come off, and this is where I'm going to have Donovan Jackson come off. Doesn't matter to me whether he's slides in at guard. I think after after Josh Simmons got hurt last year, I thought he came in and played really well at left tackle for Ohio State. So I think it gives you some flexibility and some versatility. I like him as that flex guard tackle spot more so than some other guys who are higher on this board here. So that's why I'm going to choose him. I don't know what's happening with Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, right? So he might just come in and slide in at one of the guard spots, but in a pinch, if you need him to kick outside to the left tackle, I think he's shown that he can do it, and he stays home in OHIO. Donovan Jackson, welcome to the Cleveland Browns. Leaves me up with Tennessee. Tennessee took Travis Hunter. Tennessee has 2 picks back to back, man. They could do really good right here, and they're going to, right? Because I'm going to have Mykel Williams come off the board here. They need some edge rush. They need, and in Mykel Williams, again, another one of those projection picks. I think that he's, coming in. He's an NFL run stopper on the edge, good edge setter, really strong, really good in run defense. There's just questions on what he can do as a pass rusher, just because we haven't seen it really develop. Injuries kind of and playing a little bit out of position at Georgia at times really hampered what people thought that he could be. But the value right here is way too good. So Mykel Williams is coming off the board. I'm going to also address the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, I'm going to go get them a weapon right here. This is where I'm going to have Jack Bech come off. The big riser of the Senior Bowl. Everyone knows the story of Jack Bech's brother unfortunately lost his life in the New Orleans tragedy on New Year's Day. Doesn't negate the fact that Jack Bech showed out the week of Senior Bowl. People said he was motivated to do it for his brother. I think that he's just a really good football player. And a guy that is a little bit, you might be a little bit slot specific, but he's just a football player. He knows how to get open. He knows how to do it. I'm not sure what's happening on that Tennessee wide receiver room. They're still going to need a quarterback. And maybe they'll address it later on in the draft and roll the dice and take a shot on another guy to battle out with Will Levis. But you get a guy with hands and route running ability like Jack Bech, might not run past you, right? Might not run past a couple guys, but, you can just throw the ball up there and there's more than a 50-50 chance that Jack Bech is going to come down with it. So I love Jack Bech to Tennessee. I love the fit. Leaves me up with Jacksonville. I'm going to go interior here. I'm going to take Tyler Booker, arguably the best run blocking interior offensive lineman in the class. And he gets paired up with whoever I took round 1. I took Will Johnson and Tyler Booker. I think that's a great pairing. Now I'm on the clock. Shedeur Sanders, the pick for the Raiders, right? They can go a bunch of different ways. Again, knowing what the Raiders have on offense, Shedeur Sanders is going to need some support. This is where I'm going to have Trevion Henderson come off the board. To me, he's just the Raiders type of running back, right? A pure home run hitter. He's electric anytime he gets the ball in his hands, whether it's through the air or whether it's in the ground. He can score from anywhere on the field. He's got that legit breakaway home run hitting speed. I think that will blend very, very well to what the Raiders have in the backfield already. Gives them another weapon to aid Brock Bowers and Shedeur Sanders. So it's an offensive draft so far for the Raiders. Leaves me on the clock here with the Patriots. This is a fun pick. Yeah, it's going to be offensive line. Let's go to the tackles. It's Ariante Ursary. I think he can handle left tackle. He did in college. At worst, he can move over to right, or he can play inside. I think he's a real versatile player. I love what he can do against the run. Wasn't crazy. I'm not going to lie. Wasn't crazy about some of his pass protection reps that I saw in his film, although he did come into the Senior Bowl and looked much better. I think this is the area where you're going to see guys like Ariante Ursary and Ozzie Trapillo and, Gray Zabel start to come off the board. This is where I talked about the value being for the offensive lineman, not early in round 1, but more so later in round 2. And that leaves the Bears on the clock. Gray Zabel, talked about it. They passed an offensive lineman early. They took the defensive lineman. Now they took Gray Zabel, and he can play guard, he can play center. It doesn't matter where he plays. Gray Zabel is just a football player, the most dominant player in mobile this year. Gray Zabel. I love the power profile. I love what he did inside and outside in pass protection, and he plays through the whistle. He's got that weird FCS kind of like thing that goes crazy with him. And he blocks guys 10 yards past the sideline and stuff like that. Gray Zabel is going to come into the Windy City and be a fan favorite right from the get-go. Now I'm up with Saints, and the Saints took Tyler Warren in the first round. So now we're gonna come back. We're gonna circle back to the wide receiver. We're gonna have Trey Amos come up. Oh no! All right, I messed that up. I wanted it to be Trey Harris, but Trey Amos isn't a bad pick anyway. So I'm gonna go with it here. Work with me. They need a cornerback to replace Paulson Adebo, right? And they need a cornerback to replace Marshawn Lattimore, who they just traded. So now they have Trey Amos opposite of Kool-Aid McKinstry. Listen, you could have thrown a dart at a board and landed on a position that the Saints need. So even though I was going to take Trey Harris for him, Trey Amos now really does make some sense. So I'm fine with that. So get at me in the comments, Saints fans, if you don't like it, but I'm running with it. Trey Amos is a New Orleans Saint, and I'm back up with the Bears. Walter Nolan and Gray Zabel is a home run start to a draft, and let's finish it off right here. This might be a little bit early, but I don't think so. Give me Caleb Johnson. Man, can you imagine Caleb Johnson being half of that running back tandem for Ben Johnson's offense? Just hitting, more of a zone guy, more of a one cut and go guy. But once he gets going, man, he is really, really good. I really like Omarion Hampton in this spot as well. But you have Caleb Johnson, you have Rashawn Johnson, and you have DeAndre Swift. I think that's a real, real good running back trio committee for Ben Johnson to really work his magic and help establish a run game, so that Caleb Williams, all the pressure and the onus doesn't fall on his shoulders. We've done a really good job right here for Chicago, folks. So I hope you like it, because I sure as shit do. And that leaves me up with the Jets. Took Tet McMillan in round 1. Definitely need to go on the defensive side of the ball, I think. Let's look at the tackles first. Yeah, I mean, I like Ozzie Trapillo. I don't know if it's the biggest need that they have right here, right now. Yeah, I'm going to go with, could I go corner? I could go corner, right? But I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to go to the edge room, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take, man, I'm going to take Princely Umamielen. He's a guy that I really like. I think he is well-rounded. I think he plays around good. I think he's got enough juice to get at the passer. I think you're going to need somebody there who can really establish himself and as a true hand in the dirt defensive lineman. I think that's what Umamielen does, because there's going to be situations where you need that, and there's going to be situations where you need Will McDonald on outside rushing from a 2-point stance, or we're not sure about the health of Jermaine Johnson. I think Princely Umamielen is a really good high floor player, who's got the build, who's got the skill set. You see what he does versus a pass. Very solid against the run. He's got enough sand in the ass at 260 pounds. Princely Umamielen is a guy that plays hot too. He plays with a really hot motor. Sometimes, much to the chagrin of the referees, but that's for another argument. If the Jets started Tet McMillan and Princely Umamielen, I'd be pretty stoked. And that leaves me up here with San Francisco. I'm not going to think too long here. I'm going to take Savon Ravel from East Carolina, coming off an ACL. If he wasn't, I think he's top 15, top 20 pick at worst. Good man cover skills. I think he's still going to be, not scheme specific. I think he'll fit in, to the cover 3 system or cover 4 system that Robert Sala's going to want to run there. I just think you're going to need a replacement for Tre'Davious Ward, who's probably not coming back. And yeah, so you got Armand Membo and Siobhan Ravel. I think you're in pretty good shape, and we're up here for Dallas, who took Jahad Campbell, the linebacker, at 12 to start. Going to look on the offense, going to see what the offensive weapons look like here. Yep. This is where I'm going to have Trey Harris come off the board. The real Trey Harris. Yeah, gives your prototypical X phenomenal hands, really strong at the catch point. I like Trey Harris a lot. I don't know why PFF has him, rated as low as they do in the 90s or 100s. I think he's a second round player all day long. Good compliment to CeeDee Lamb. Going to help Dak in that offense right here. Colts are up. Will Campbell was the selection in round 1, and I'm going to go to the back end here. I'm going to take Xavier Watts off the board for them. Gives them that flexibility, that ball hawk that can play and roam center field. Yeah, listen, I think Xavier Watts leaves a little to be desired as a run stopper, but that's not what his moneymaker is. He's a playmaker, and something that the Indianapolis back end of the defense could use. So why not put him there and see what happens? I'm up with Atlanta again. Now, should I double dip with the edge rushers? That's not out of the question here, right? But I'm not going to. I think I'm going to look on the back end of the defense here. Yeah. This might be where we go ahead and start looking at some of these other cornerbacks. No, I'm not crazy about them. Well, that would be funny if I did that, wouldn't it? Yeah. But I'm not. I'm going to go ahead. Atlanta's a tough one to draft for, man. I'm not going to lie. They need some interior juice. I'm gonna give them some depth on the interior of the offensive line. Let me see the tackle class here. See if there's any of those tackle. Yep, and there it is. Wyatt Milam says tackle. Think he plays guard. Whether he comes in and he starts right away, maybe even decide to move him in to center. But Atlanta did a really good job transitioning Matthew Bergeron from that, a college tackle to interior guy. I think Wyatt Milam is set for that as well. Gives you a lot of depth. I don't know what's happening with the depth of the Falcons. They're going to need to build it. And truth be told, some of their guys, good as Lidstrom and Jake Matthews are, and Caleb McGarry, they're not getting any younger. So why it's time to build that pipeline. Wyatt Milam's going to be picked there. Arizona's on the clock, and we took Kenneth Grant in the first. We took Kenneth Grant in the first round. They're another team that could probably use some interior offensive linemen. They could use a tackle too. Maybe this is where I'm going to have Ozzie True. No, I'm going to keep Jonah Salvanea home. I'm going to have him come off the board here. Guard, tackle, I don't care where you want to put him. I think he can play both. Maybe you decide you want to move, keep Paris Johnson over there at left and have Jonah play on the right side, or you want to pair them up on the left side together. It doesn't matter to me. I think keeping Jonah Salvanea home in Arizona makes sense. And man, that's a home run draft in 2 rounds for them between Salvanea and Kenneth Grant. I love that. Dolphins are on the board. Let's see what we did. We took Jahdae Barron last time for the Dolphins. They need some beef up front, man. This is where I'm going to have that defensive enforcer, Tyreek Williams. More of a 2-down guy, but they need somebody that can come in and stop the run. And he plays so damn big and so damn well. Like I said, I think there's a lot of needs on the Miami team. I think they're a little bit farther off than people expect, but he's going to be the pick. Tyreek Williams out of Ohio State fills a need with a really good player for Miami. They're 48. Bengals are on the clock. Bengals took Kelvin Banks to play inside for them. Oh, man. Tyreek Williams there for them would have been great. But I'm going to do them one better. I'm going to have Jalen Royals come off the board here. I'm going to assume T. Higgins is gone. And Jalen Royals, Jamar Chase. Oof, man, that's a lot of movement there. This might be a little bit rich. I don't think so. He's my number 5 receiver on the board. I love the movement skills. I love what he does to get open. The short area quickness is ridiculous. The route running is really good. A little bit smaller, yes, but he's a guy that you want to put the ball in his hands and let the magic happen. That's what's happened through Jalen Royals' career. In college, like I said, 1,000 yards the year before, 15 touchdowns, battled some injuries this year, only played 7 games, but was healthy enough to come back this year and play in the Senior Bowl. Jalen Royals going to the Bengals here, and now I'm up with the Seattle Seahawks. And this one I'm going to have Nick Scorton come off the board. He shouldn't be here. It's another one of those inside-outside edge rusher guys. Guy moves very well. If you put him next to or on the outside of Leonard Williams in certain forms, I think he's not very scheme specific. He could play a 5 tech if you want him to. He could play outside with his hand in the dirt in an even front edge as an even front edge rusher as well. I just think, again, value, or talent supersedes talent and value supersede any sort of other filling of positional needs at this point. Nick Scorton coming off the board of the Seattle Seahawks. The Bucks are up, and I'm going to. Oh man. Yeah, Jalen Royals would have been a great pick right here for them. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to secure some depth inside for them. Tate Ratledge is a guy who I think is going to fall in this, mid to late second, early round or early third round range. The Georgia offensive line is kind of flying under the radar. Wilson, the center, Ratledge, they're all just kind of, quietly not being talked about as much as the Gray Zables of the world or the, Kelvin Banks or the Osby Trapillos of the world. Tate Ratledge, again, battled some injuries, struggled, but he is just a really, really good football player. I think he's one of those guys who you can come in, he's going to put his helmet on and probably, take ground at left guard for the next 10 to 12 years for you. And Tampa Bay needs some, they need some bodies up front. They need some beef up front to protect Baker and also to open those holes for the running back. So Tate Ratledge is going to be my guy. We're on the board now with Denver. Denver traded up for Colson Loveland last time. This is what I'm going to have. I think I'm leaning towards the defensive backfield here. Maybe you need to get a running mate for. No, Pat Surtain, the defensive player of the year. Does he need a running mate? Maybe he needs somebody to play in the nickel, can flip back and forth. I think probably your better bet is to lock down somebody that can play the safety position, right? So I'm going to have Nick Emanwari come off here. He's a top 25 player for me. I think he's big. Some people are going to say, oh, he should be a linebacker, but I think he's versatile enough to be playing multiple positions along the defense. He surprisingly runs very well. He can flip his hips and run pretty well and trail with those slot receivers and tight ends, so on and so forth. He comes up and he's not afraid to lay a hit at 6'3", almost 230 pounds. Nick Emanwari is going to come off the board here, and I think everyone's going to be happy. I'm up with the Steelers. Steelers took Luther Bird in round 1. I'm going to have Will Howard come off the board. All right. He's gonna roll the dice, and maybe he's your starter. Maybe they bring back Russell Wilson or Justin Fields to kind of compete or bridge with Will Howard. But the Pennsylvania kid comes home to Pennsylvania. Big body, reminiscent of Ben Roethlisberger, big arm. Again, another athletic kid. I like Will Howard a ton. Yeah, don't know really what his ceiling's going to be, if it's going to be franchise style quarterback or if it's going to be someone that won't, lose you a ton of games. More of that, game manager type. I'm not sure. Will Howard definitely has to cut back on the YOLO balls. He loves to put the ball up in harm's way, but if we can kind of tone that down and put a good running game behind him, I think Will Howard can pay dividends. And this is going to be the area where you see him come off of the board. So we're up here with the Chargers back on the clock. They traded up for one Ashton Genty last time, right? They got some holes up front on the defensive side. I guess I don't know if they've made a decision on what they're doing with Asante Samuel. I don't know if he's a free agent or not. I know they brought on Christian Fulton, who is a free agent because he only got a 1-year contract last year. So maybe that's where I'm going to look here. And it is. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go the cornerback. They got Cam Hart, who I really, really like coming out of the draft last year. For me, Cam Hart is that long, really, really good all around cornerback. Like I don't know if he's specifically stuck or sold as a true press man guy, although he can do it. I don't know if he's specifically got the eyes and the anticipation to be just his own corner, but he can do it well. I liken his length to a guy here where I'm going to have come off the board, and I liken his skill set to the same. Darian Porter, coming off the board from Iowa State, a 6'3" former wide receiver. Like I said, still developing as a man corner, probably a little bit more better playing off man or zone, but I think it gives you a lot of versatility. If him and Cam Hart are going to be your starters on the outside, at least you lock down the size there. And you got two guys that aren't afraid to get physical with the wide receivers. So good fit for me. Darian Porter, one of those guys that you just like to root for, is coming off the board to the LA Chargers. Green Bay is on the clock. Green Bay took Azariah Thomas early on. Green Bay's going to need to replace Christian Watson, so they need that X receiver. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and take him if I can find him, that is. Yeah, give me Jaden Higgins. He's got the size profile that they're going to look for. He fits that X, that prototypical X build. Moves better than people say that he did in college. I think that he can create separation just fine on the outside. He's really turned it on. Another guy, big catch radius, strong hands, reliable, a little bit older of a prospect, but it doesn't seem that is something that the Packers would be afraid of. Again, Christian Watson was an older prospect when they took him a couple years back. And, in essence, he's replacing Christian Watson as your prototypical X guy. Buffalo's on the clock. Buffalo got Miles. They got Myles Garrett. That's really scary, right? They need some help. They need a cornerback. They also need some interior guys here. And this is where I'm going to have the big boy come off. I think that they're going to need to replace that interior one tech. Give me Alfred Collins here for Buffalo. Might be more of a 2-down guy. Might be an early down guy to start, but he does it, and he does it very well, man. Big body. He's got enough. I think the chops are there to develop as a pass rusher. I just don't think that they're there yet. More will come with some time, but for right now, they need that big body between Russo, Myles Garrett, and Ed Oliver over there. You need somebody that can two gap and take up some space and really help solidify their run defense. And they got another pick coming up that they can play around with. So Alfred Collins is going to be the pick there for Buffalo. Rams are on the clock. Rams took Emeka Egbuka, their Cooper Kupp replacement last time. So now they're going to go to the offensive line here. This is when I have Ozzie Trapillo come off the board. You need a tackle. I don't care if it's on the left side or right side. I think he might be better on the right side, but I wouldn't be opposed to trying him on the left side. He's done both in college. 6'8", 30, almost 35-inch arms. Really, really good power profile too. Does battle that tall tackle problem where he can lose the leverage battle at some point, but a guy that I think can play at the next level. And they waited. They took Emeka Egbuka to start, and they still landed a really, really good tackle here late in round 2. Carolina's on the board. Carolina took James Pierce to start. Carolina, I guess, is going to need some more help on that defense, right? They could use another receiver as well. They could use a tight end too. I mean, Jatavion Sanders is good. But is he a 3-down guy? Maybe this is the spot. Yeah. Yep. No. Yeah. I'm gonna have Gunnar Helm come off the board. Jatavion Sanders, although is good, I think Gunnar Helm, it has that ceiling of that true 3-down all around tight end. Sneaky fast, can get up the seams, does a real good job in contested catches. I think he's a phenomenal blocker. I think he's going to help. I think he's going to help Chuba Hubbard and that offensive line in the run game as well. This is the area where you're going to see some of these guys go. Gunnar Helm, to me, is going to come in and he's going to pay dividends for Carolina and Bryce Young right off the get-go. Baltimore's on the clock. We're getting to the end of it here, folks. Josh Connerly was the pick to start. And maybe this is where, listen. This is where I'm going to have Savion Williams come off the board. He's a unique study. Size, height, weight, speed kind of player. He's going to fly, 6'2", 225 pounds. He's big. He's built. He's going to be your X guy. Question how developed his route tree really is, but you know what? You get him the ball, and it doesn't even have to be just on those little smoke screens and those quick hitches. I think you have enough on the offense there between your tight ends and the other receivers that are on there. Savion Williams is going to get a chance to use his skill set and his athleticism to advantage. And guys, we talk about 50-50 ball. Savion Williams, it's more like 75-25. That guy can come down with it. Again, not a lot of nuance to his route running. Definitely more athlete than not, but there's something about this fit in this offense which makes sense for me. So that's why I'm having him come off the board. Lions are up. Lions took Ben Morrison first, and Lions are going to be elated to sit here and take Jack Sawyer. He to me is a perfect Detroit Lion. Very, very high floor, very, very high motor, real good character. Might not be a double-digit sack guy, but is going to be very good. It's like a B+ student all across the board in run game and in getting at the passer. I question how his pass rush skill set is really going to translate to the next level. But again, I think he's going to have some help or some attention taken off of his plate with Aiden Hutchinson, a healthy Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. So that's what's going to be the pick there for the Detroit Lions. I'm up now with Washington, and Washington took Matthew Golden in round 1. So, there's a bunch of different ways they can go as well. Like I said, they could use a tight end for sure. They could use some defensive help, whether it's at safety, whether it's at defensive back. They need somebody to play opposite Marshawn Lattimore, right? So I don't know who we have here left in the cornerback room. Maxwell Harrison's here. He's more of a nickel. And you know what? Which they need as well. Noel Williams, I like a lot. I think he's a really good man cover corner on the outside. So I'm happy going with either one of those. But I'm gonna pay some love to Maxwell Harris. Nah, I'm gonna pay some love to Noel Williams. He's a little bit bigger at 6'1", 200 pounds. And the only reason I'm shying away from Maxwell Harrison here, talent wise, he's more than capable of going here in this spot. But you just watch that really light cornerback, prototype get drafted by Washington a couple drafts ago and already moved on from. So, plus I think Noel Williams gives him a little bit more of a press man presence on the outside. I like those two guys. If you put the size and the press man coverage abilities of Lattimore and Noel Williams together on the outside, I think you're building, something pretty good there. So Washington still has some room to go and some work to do, but yeah, there's that. I'm up here with Buffalo. Buffalo took Alfred Collins round 1, solidified that defense. Remember, Buffalo also traded for one Myles Garrett. So could this be? Listen, Buffalo has a lot of cap maneuvering to do. I can tell you this much: I can almost assure you that they're going to bring Matt Collins back. Matt Collins was a really low key, good player at times, good role player for Buffalo. He fit the bill, came up big when he had to. They're going to need to replace Amari Cooper. Is this the spot they do that, or do they still pay more attention to the defensive side of the ball, right? Cole Bishop, I'm assuming, is going to step in for DeMar Hamlin if they don't bring him back, but who steps in on the outside corner? Man, Noel Williams would have been great here. Yeah, he would have, but we can also go ahead and lock them in with Kobe Bryant. Again, longer cornerback at 6'1", a little bit underweight. This says 175. I think he'll weigh in bigger than that, but kind of take that Russell Douglas off coverage capabilities from me. You don't have to worry about signing Russell Douglas. Listen, this could be another spot that they make a trade as well. Maybe Jair Alexander comes over. Maybe they dip back into the Green Bay pool. But Kobe Bryant is a good ball player. I think this is the area we're going to see him come off. People are going to be pining for those longer, dual cornerbacks, the guys who can press up and who have those, the capabilities to play off or zone. Bobby Babich does a lot of mixed coverage, a lot of off man principles, a lot of man coverage as well. So I think he's going to be a fit. Probably needs to bulk up a little bit, although he is a really good tackler in space. I think he wouldn't be so bad for him to build up a little bit more muscle, if you will. Kansas City's up. TJ Sanders coming off the board. Some more pressure, some more depth from the interior defensive line. That's an easy pick for me for Kansas City. And we are up the last pick of this draft. It wouldn't be right if I didn't end it in the trenches, right? Yeah, I'm going to do it. This is going to be Darius Alexander, one of my favorite players in this entire draft. He's so good. He's so underrated. He's a guy who, I don't care where you line him up. You can line him up inside, and maybe he's that Milton Williams replacement. You can line him up outside. Maybe he's the Bryce Huff replacement when they move off of him. Who knows? He's just a football player. He's a guy that's going to get on the field early and often. Darius Alexander is going to be a really, really good player in this league. And that's it, guys. That's 2 rounds, all done, all for you. Tried to keep it as short as possible, although, you know me, I'm long-winded. Listen, didn't get as many trades as I thought would happen in the latter rounds, but I did get through in a 2-rounder just to see what it would look like for you. A lot of things are going to happen in the next coming days, next coming weeks. Free agency is going to start. You're going to see a lot more movement in terms of roster formation. Guys are going to get cut. You get the combine coming up where people are going to start falling in love with the guy who runs 4.4 in his underwear. All that stuff is happening. It's draft season, baby. I got a lot more content coming out, guys. We're going to get through our 7-round mocks for the teams starting, probably next week with the Titans at 1 and going straight down. I can't wait to get more content out for you guys. So if you could do me as much of a favor and just like this video, subscribe to the channel, post it on your socials. I don't care if you like what I say, get it out there to the masses. I don't care. I want to produce more content that the masses get to hear, and I need your help to do that. But this was fun. This was faster than I thought I'd be. I'm not going to lie. That's a 2-round pre-combined NFL mock draft for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dom C, here with the Draft Dodgers. And until next time, we'll see you.